On page 13 of Culturally Relevant Pedagogy, it states, it directly challenges the kind of educational accountability sponsored by the legislation and programs such as No Child Left Behind. Measuring student performances and testing does not do anything to alleviate human suffering. Students are not learning because of other issues that are shaping situations. For example, there has been a recent push in the urban schools to understand trauma and the various forms of trauma, the behaviors of the child, and the student outcomes that may have had trauma in their life. This is not only a race inequality, it is making sure the students' basic needs are met. In addition, I do support the perception that testing students often and making a number represent them and not being shown their effort, creativity, and their display of knowledge show who they really are. When I was student teaching in 3rd grade, we had a student that was so worked up before the state ELA exam that he barely slept. He could not eat the breakfast before the test, and his mother had called twice to inform us how his night was before and to check up on him. It is so sad the student that is openly aware that he is a low reader is so worried that his score that he's going to get is going to make a huge impact on his life. In our text, Teaching Reading in the Content Areas, on page 53, it states, another common pitfall in guided discussion is the tendency of teachers to allow a few bright, verbal students to monopolize class discussion. This I also support because I always keep in the back of my mind when I'm picking on students with their hand raised if this child is going to be able to answer the question right away and the conversation ends there. If I know this and I want to build upon it, I make sure I select a few students to use as teachable moments and to have discussion before selecting the student that will have the answer correct right away. Because if I select the same student who knows the answer every time, there will be no class growth. What impressed me from this reading was on page 11 of our Culturally Relevant Pedagogy. It stated, Ferrer and Mesido, 1987, proposed that worlds and words are socially and historically located. As such, to be able to challenge and change their worlds, individuals need to start reading the history of their world in order to name pressing issues. This made me think back to a time in student teaching when I was looking for quotes by famous African Americans that my students would be able to relate to. At the time, I was just focusing on celebrities and athletes because I thought they would be able to connect and care more. But my mentor teacher said that they see and hear enough from the African American celebrities and athletes. They don't truly understand those that made changes in their culture, and it was much more than just Rosa Parks and Martin. From that moment, it made me think outside the box and understand that they just know what's in front of them. They don't know the history to their culture, and they need to be introduced to others that they might not know of. That moment made me connect back to the quote from the reading on page 11. My question is, after reading about Ferrer and his culture circles being dismantled on page 15 of Culturally Relevant Pedagogy, why aren't there any more attempts to doing culture circles or any further studies during recent times if they were so powerful? On page 53 of Teaching Reading in the Content Areas, it broke down the purposes and ideas to expand the classroom library. And to be honest, when my students finish their work early, I give them an option to pick a book and lay on the carpet and read it. But sometimes it turns into partners getting together, sharing and talking, which then I typically end because it gets too noisy for the workers that are still at their desks. And it isn't my direction to go to the carpet and pick a friend to read a book with. I ask them, once they're done individually, to go pick a book out and sit on their carpet square to read. And I think I need to be more relaxed with the students after reading about classroom libraries and discussions that come from it, because I can have the students discuss what they see in their books, use the books to look through with sight words, and the students can pair and share and have discussion about the books. It's not just socializing on the carpet. And I think I need to relax and take a step back and understand that more.